Welcome to Season 2 of Unspoken Truth. This will be a journey of self-discovery, healing, and bringing out the best version of ourselves and learning the art of being unapologetic, secure in who we are, and loving ourselves first before we love others, knowing when to choose ourselves and letting go of what doesn't serve us. Join me on this journey of discovering unspoken truths and changing the narrative. This is from a woman who's just like you, a mother, a sister, a daughter, and God's child, and in everything else in between. I am still an individual riding the waves of life. I am Nita Terry T, your host of Unspoken Truth.
Hi, Anita. Thank you for inviting me to be part of your podcast. I'm very honored and humbled, and I wish it goes smoothly with your audience. So I've got your questions up on a screen on the side, and I'm going to probably read them out loud so that they make sense for me as we go along. The first one is already in my mind. To tell you more about who Bongani Njalo is. So I'm just a Xhosa boy from Gqeberha, formerly known as Port Elizabeth in South Africa. I'm speaking to you from London, where I'm currently living. I'm here to do my master's at Birkbeck University of London. I'm pursuing an MA in Arts Policy and Management. A little bit about how I found myself here. So my background is in the visual arts. I did my undergrad in fine art and majored in stained glass, and practiced for about 10 years in South Africa across the cultural landscape of our very diverse country. And I decided to do an MA because an MA in Arts Policy and Management, to be specific, so that I can use art as a vehicle to change policies, to change the cultural landscape for artists in South Africa, and to bring us to the international level where the practitioners are at, but not so much the policies that are meant to be supporting the artists. So yeah, I decided to come out here and get myself an international education for that. My journey of identifying, how has that been? It's been smooth for the most part. I'm not going to lie and say that I was disowned or cut off from my family when I came out, even though I thought that's what would happen, because my dad was openly, verbally homophobic in the house. You know, he spoke vehemently against homosexuality. And so that made my coming out a little bit difficult. But I decided to do so nonetheless when I was 23. I came out to my mom, and it was very teary, a very teary conversation, very nervous conversation from my part, from my end, but she received it very well. She received it far better than I had expected. In fact, I remember that conversation very clearly, and I'm sure many people who have come out still remember the first time they came out to their parents. We were sitting in the lounge, and my dad was in the kitchen. And it's an open plan house, so you can hear when someone is having a conversation in one room, you can almost hear what they're saying. Doesn't matter where you are in the house. And when I told her that I'm gay, I asked her not to tell my dad, because I was so scared about how he would respond. And she looked at me straight in my eyes and said, with tears coming down her face, and she said, "Bongani, it doesn't matter what your father says or how he reacts. If he decides to kick you out of this house, I am coming with you because you are my child." And that those words have stuck with me my whole life. They've not left me. I don't want to lie. And I'm getting teary just thinking about it right now. And she held me in her arms, and she said, I will deal with your father however I see fit, and you don't need to worry about that. That was quite liberating, to hear. That was also quite comforting to hear. And that was my mom's response. And I know it's not been like that for everyone, but I wish that everybody gets that kind of response, from their parents. Coming out to myself first, and others, who was that in that experience? Okay, so I mentioned that I came out at 23, but I was already with my first boyfriend for quite a while. And we had been known as a couple by our close friends for quite some time, and some family members, but not everyone. So coming out really happened in stages, you know. When I was in university, I wasn't closeted for the most part. Only in first year, when I kind of had a girlfriend from like high school, and I broke up with her. And then, yeah, I was in art school, so I was just going to be myself all the time. But I only came out to my parents years after that. It changes, and it changes me all the time, having to come out, you know. I have issues with it all the time, because you kind of have to gauge and read the room before you make it a safe space for yourself, to come out. And I hate those words. But you have to create a safe space for yourself, but you have to gauge that everywhere, all the time, your whole life. And it's really annoying. So coming out to myself, I'd rather talk about that. Let me focus on that, because I think that's a lot more interesting. So I first came out to myself at the age of 14. I was in high school. I was in a predominantly boys' school. And I fell in love I was infatuated with one of the boys in my grade. And to this day, I've of course never mentioned that, because it was just hypermasculinity and patriarchy all day, every day in that place. And I remember it very clearly. I was 14. I was in grade 9, standard 7. And I went home from school realizing that I knew before then, since I was 8, that I'm different from other boys. But when I went home that afternoon, I couldn't get him out of my mind again. Like, everything about him was like so interesting and cool and sexy. And I took off my blazer when I got home. I didn't even eat lunch. I just locked my room, sat in front of the mirror. I cried and I cried, because I knew that I had nobody else I could tell this to. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, Bomani, you're gay. And I froze. It still giving me goosebumps, because I was so scared. And I looked at myself again and I said, Bomani, you're gay. Like, kind of talking to myself. And yeah, I kept that secret for so many years. I didn't tell anybody in high school. In fact, all my friends tried to get me girlfriends. I think they were trying to force heterosexuality on me, or like prove to themselves that, I don't know. I don't know why, but they always, introduce girls to me and try to get me girlfriends throughout high school. And I just played along, even though I knew I wasn't at all interested in those girls. I just played along, really. And in hindsight, that was a terrible situation to find myself in, and to create for the girls around me also, because some of them really felt strongly about me. And that was just unfortunate that to protect myself, I felt that I needed to create these false and hold on to these false relationships. So, that kind of coming out and self-realization, I think is something that we need to talk about more in the community and to the cis-hetero world that we live in, so that they can understand how many gay men find themselves in long-term relationships and in marriages with women sometimes. And of course, for women, the same thing happens too, They're so scared to come out that they force themselves into marriage. I'm just going to leave that at that and move on to the next question. So I want to talk about the treatment that I've received, especially in society. For the most part, I dealt with a lot of verbal violence, hearing my friends in high school talking about homosexuality in very violent and upsetting ways, not knowing, of course, that I'm gay and that I was being hurt by all of these words all the time. But, I felt that was quite a violent space to be in. But I haven't yet, I'm now 33, and I haven't yet had a physically violent thank God, incident because of my sexuality. I did have a near scuffle though, in the US in 2017 on the 4th of July. I was going to the 4th of July celebrations. I was just coming out of the subway in Philadelphia, and the streets are all packed and it's buzzing. And I'm in a foreign country, I'm also trying to get festive, but I'm all by myself. So I'm walking through to the event section where, Mary J was performing. And this group of African-American teenagers come out from behind me up the stairs on the subway. And they start calling me faggot and just hurling all kinds of verbal insults at me. And it's just about my sexuality. It's, never experienced anything like that in South Africa. But yeah, that happened. And yeah, it was scary because, number one, I was in a foreign country. Number two, I was alone. And number three, because that was happening for the first time in my life, it's always quite jarring to be confronted with violence. And it's stunning, not stunningly beautiful, stunning in the sense that it stuns you into stillness. It jerks you into immobility. And that's what that experience did for me. It just knocked me like a cold, big block of ice. And I just didn't know how to respond. I eventually didn't go to the Mary J concert. I turned around and I went back to Res, and yeah, I just locked myself up for the night. Well, there were fireworks. Yeah, that was not a very pleasant time. Let me move on to the next question. What type of injustices have I faced? Child, I'm a black gay man. Where do I even begin? I'm a black gay man. Like the world is full of all kinds of injustices for people like me. I've experienced racism. I've experienced both subtle and overt racism. I've experienced homophobia within white spaces, within black spaces. I've felt all kinds of different ways, which is why I identify as queer now, because, I feel a complete disconnect from so many communities which are supposed to be my own. I feel disconnected from the black community because there's so much homophobia within black communities. I feel a disconnect from a lot of gay black culture in South Africa because I'm a creative and I relate to the world very differently, and not so much so as way my friends do. I find myself in isolation a lot of times, even in social situations, like with my friends. I will feel completely just disconnected because, my understanding of the world is, it's very different, man. I can't really pinpoint it, but because I'm an artist, I struggle to relate to mainstream culture. I struggle to relate to a lot of things which my friends would gravitate towards. So like there's sometimes a disconnect between myself and gay culture, or South African black gay culture, which in and of itself is quite diverse, mixed bag of goodies. But then there's always a disconnect somewhere along the line. Yeah. And then I wouldn't call that injustice something that I've faced, but maybe something, the disconnect that I'm feeling is sometimes maybe self-imposed. Maybe I'm being too harsh on myself. I don't know. I'm constantly asking myself these questions. But I'm not going to delve into that. It's an ongoing conversation with myself. How would I like the world to view the LGBTQI community? Whoa, that is a big one. The community. As if we're a community. I'd like to experience British queer culture, but I haven't because of COVID. Maybe I'll have a better understanding, and I don't know, like that's a difficult question for me. How would I like the world to view the LGBTQI community? Well, I'll tell you one thing, we're not united. There's a lot of politics within there that freak me out too. Like, whoa, are we having this conversation on Twitter? Very diverse, very creative, strong, not because we are strong, but because the world demands that of us. Hurt, lots of hurt people in the community who then in turn hurt others within the community. We need to be honest and acknowledge that. Lots of trauma in the community. Lots of drug and alcohol abuse, which is a result of the trauma. And the world needs to know that we're not your accessories. We are human beings. If you cut us, we'll bleed. Be kind to us because we are incredibly sensitive beings. And we carry a lot that we don't talk about. And I need the cis community, cis het community, to acknowledge and be aware of that. Next question. If I had the power to change the narrative of how our community is viewed, what would be the first thing you would change? People outside of the community need to understand that we fight and we will continue fighting unapologetically for our rights, because we are human beings and we are fighting for human rights, essentially. We are fighting for the right to love. We are fighting for the right and for the freedom to self-identify the way that we want to identify. And if you try to take away any of those rights, you will have all of us coming tumbling down on you like a ton of bricks. Next question. If you were going to go back in time to tell your young self advice, what would it be? Oh my God, my 14-year-old self. I'd tell him it's okay. It's okay to hold on to the silence for a little bit longer. It's okay to love whomever you want to love, however you want to love. I tell him that his love is valid. I tell him that it's not disgusting and something to be ashamed of. And I'd apologize for being in a world where there aren't enough people to look up to. What would your advice be to anyone who's still trying to figure out who they are and how they identify? It's not a race. Take your time with yourself. Be easy on yourself. And that means continuously ask questions. Ask those you can reach out to. Use the internet as a resource. And don't feel pressured. Don't feel pressured to come out at any stage in your life. You don't owe that to anybody, because you will keep on coming out time and time again for the rest of your life anyway. And before I go, where can people find me? On Instagram and Twitter. My Twitter handle is _artist. Yeah. Abafana Abafani is the name you'll see when my Twitter handle comes out. And Abafana Abafani is basically the hashtag I use to describe my TEDx talk. You can find me on Instagram, Bongani_Njalo. And that's a wrap, folks.
Hello. Hi. I'm so excited.
Okay, so let's get started.
Yeah.
So hi, Cherry Stone. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. Like, it's a pleasure.
So I know you through Instagram, so I was hoping if you could tell my listeners who you are briefly before we dive into the topic.
Okay, my name is Cherry Stones, but my real name is Amlin Didesio. I am an upcoming model, and I also do fashion content related to fashion, lifestyle. And yeah, that's me. I'm a creative, and yeah, I love art.
That's great. So tell me.
Sorry, I'm kind of like nervous because
Don't
this
be
is my
nervous.
first podcast.
Don't be nervous. This is a platform of sharing stories. I encourage people to share stories just to give other people solace, comfort in who they are, comfort in their skin and stuff. So, how's been your journey of identifying, and how do you identify?
Firstly, I identify as a gay male. My pronouns are he and him. My identity was really tricky for me, but also in what aspect, if I may ask, identity in what aspects.
So when I say identifying, just generally in finding in yourself, finding that you are a gay man. How did you get to that point where you're like, this is who I am, therefore I'm comfortable to being me? How has been that journey?
It was a very tricky one, like I said, because I spent most of like my teens, like up to my teens, like from childhood up to my teens, just trying to fit in and like just trying to hide who I was because, you know, growing up in a family, like a Black household that's so strict and religious, you kind of been like, you kind of see who you think you are as being targeted and like basically you being taught like, oh, this is wrong, you shouldn't be like this, it's not normal. So growing up, I just grew up with that knowledge. So I just was so afraid of showcasing that side of me because I've always been told like, no, that's wrong, that's unacceptable. But then I think later and up till like probably like the start of matric, that's when I started like really diving deep in who I am. I just was like, I had enough with pleasing people when I was like miserable and I didn't know who I was, and it frustrated me so much. And I just got like just an abundance of inspiration through the things that I was passionate about. And I just started showcasing myself slowly but surely through like art. And I feel like Instagram and social media was also a platform for me to just showcase a side of me that no one else knew. And I kind of built like an alter ego, if you could say, that just motivated me and inspired me to just live out. Thank you so much. Which motivated me to kind of like, you know, it's okay. People online loved my content, and it kind of showed me that not everyone like views you the same way. Not everything has to be negative. And I just found people who also kind of shared the same views as me, which also gave me a source of comfort in like, okay, it's okay to be yourself, and you don't have to fit in and join what society says you should be. Just define your own journey and your own identity. So that was my journey with my identity. I'm still on it, but it's pretty solid right now.
That's great. I like the fact that you actually went through such, different ways in identifying, finding yourself within society around you, finding yourself within your family, finding yourself around friends. So in that journey of identifying and finding yourself, did it ever, like, let me put it this way. So you know how in the LGBTIQ community there's this whole concept of coming out. Did you therefore come out to the people in your community, or are you like me who believes that coming out is just pure nonsense?
I'm
or
just like you.
You feel like it's an ongoing thing? Because I feel like, personally, I feel like coming out is a never-ending journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're gonna always have to come out. So how was coming out first to yourself? Because it's trying to figure out who you are first, learning yourself and the people around you. So did you get to that point of actually coming out per se?
I don't believe in like coming out. I just feel like I never felt the need for it. And I never pressured myself to it, I just feel like if a straight person doesn't have that pressure, like is not pressured to, like, why does it have to be as, like queer people that have to, like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, when straight people just are straight. So I was just like, no, I'm not gonna come out as if like this is like some kind of disease, or like know how you come up, like how you get diagnosed, like, okay, I have cancer, I have HIV, like I'm just me. So it's just like I never really did that. Even to myself, I never came out to myself. It was more of just exploring myself, exploring who I am, and just finding and understanding and analyzing, oh, what do I like? Why do I act this way? Is it because of this and that? Am I, just like, what am I attracted to? What do I want in life? And who do I want to be in life? And that was the most important thing for me, to just be comfortable with who I am without without laboring anything. I don't believe in labels as well.
Same here. But it just makes it easier for people.
Yeah. So it's just like, it's just me. I am me. I don't need to come out. So yeah, I never did that.
You love who you love.
Yeah, and exactly. Exactly.
You love who you love. So okay, so in not having to come out to yourself or people in society or your community that you grew up in, did you ever face some form of injustice? Like, have you been treated in a way you feel like, oh, I'm really an outcast?
Yes, definitely.
Has your family disowned you? And how did you, face it, if I can put it that way?
For me,
if you faced any injustice.
Okay. Luckily enough, I don't think I really faced, the whole family thing of like being disowned and all of that. My family was quite like, I feel like my family was kind of like, I feel like my family just wanted me to like just be me,
Yes.
Like, how they like purposely like make remarks to see how would I react, just like to prove their point. Because I was, I won't say I was in the closet, but I was kind of like in the closet. Like I just wanted to fit in, like way before, when I was younger. I just wanted to fit in, so I hid a lot of who I was. So I feel like my family just wanted me to just like, like just say it. You are.
Yes, we know already.
yeah, exactly. Just embrace it. So yeah, And I've always been comfortable, not always, but like I've grown to be comfortable around my family with who I am, and just like they already know, okay, but even though they don't understand it, they just still support me in a way, which is amazing because I know a lot of people don't get that. But I also have faced a lot of, I wouldn't say it's injustices, but like more of like unfair treatment in terms of like friends and like, you know, social environments. Because I never really had a label. So everyone was just like, you know, picking on me and just like trying to get me to conform into like coming out.
A
and
specific,
just like, you know, like people just felt entitled to like
maybe they just wanted to date you, so they wanted to make sure.
Like, are you really like, just say it, you're gay. I'm sorry that I'm whispering because there's family around, so I don't want to make noise, but
No
anyways,
you loud and clear, don't worry.
Okay, good. So I just like, I would be so awkward around people in social gatherings because they always just like bully me into like coming out, or just like, nah, you gay, you know. And I just wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready. I didn't know who I was, and I just didn't know how to express that side of myself. So I was just like them. I was still learning about myself. I was still learning about it all, and I was so young. So it's like, I just needed to take my own sweet time.
So, you are a model, you are a curator, you are more in this entertainment industry. How would you like the world of entertainment to embrace people that identify? Do you believe there's a long way to get there? Me saying that, I've witnessed that in the entertainment industry, you find gay roles acted by straight men, lesbian roles acted by straight women, and I think even the worst, transgender roles, you know, yet again being played by straight men. How do you see, how do you view this world? Will we ever transition to a point where the entertainment industry will change, or do you think it will never change? Like, what's your take on that?
My take is, I'm going to speak about like, you know, South Africa, because that's the one I have like, it's the country that I lived in and I've been raised in, and like experienced, you know, all of that. So I'm speaking on behalf of SA. I feel like we have a long way to go. Like, honestly, I just feel like people don't take queer members of the LGBTIQ plus community seriously here. I just feel like people, like, we kind of seen as a character. I can't say the word, but like characters, if I could say, kind of like characters. People usually just like, I feel like people just love mocking members of the community, and I don't think we at that point of where it's acceptable. Like, we have to first deal with that before, you know, anything else transcends into, you know, the entertainment business, doors being opened more to, you know, the members of the community, because we first need to accept that, okay, these people exist, and it's okay that they exist. And I just feel like people are just hypocrites, like in the industry, like dead ass.
Yeah.
Everyone is gonna be like, oh yeah, gay rights, but then
Mm-hmm.
they always go for straight people to cast as roles. It's like we are a trend or something, like just for the moment when we need it, you know? Like they never fully they never fully what like they never fully um they never fully open doors. I don't know if it's open doors or like accept the LGBTI plus
or
community.
give enough
or like
give enough
opportunities,
equal
representation. They never fully give full representation. It's more of like, okay, yeah, we'll bring a storyline that is centered around, you know, queer people, but we will not cast queer people. Like it doesn't, they never go all the way.
And do you also think,
and I feel like,
do you think it only exists in the heteronormative way, or even within the queer community itself? Do you feel like it's an opinion? Okay, let's just put it as a disclaimer. It's an opinion, but do you feel like also designers who identify, do they give equal opportunities also to the queer community to run, to walk the runways, to model their clothes? Do you think it's just a heteronormative thing, or is it just in across all boards? Because we can't
all boards, like honestly all boards. That's why I'm saying, like, as a country as a whole, we need a lot of education. We need a lot of, like, you know, work in terms of like where we are in terms of, like, you know, sexuality and just like different communities.
I think it's all misconstrued in something also.
Yeah.
Because they think it's contagious.
Yeah, exactly.
They think when you identify as a lesbian girl, or a gay guy, or a bisexual, boy or girl, transgender,
like,
it's gonna pass on. And they're forgetting it's being itself. It's how you feel. It's who you love. It's you know, it's more like a personal. It's really a personal thing, but it's so weird because it's more like when you come across people who think that being around Black people is contagious. You know, and it's not.
Yeah,
it's not contagious. So maybe I think they have to unlearn the whole thing of people make other people gay, because I've heard that in circles where they're like, oh, don't act this way because this person is gonna make you gay. And I've been in relationships where the parents of my girlfriends used to say I turned their children gay.
Oh my God.
And you're thinking,
you see,
how is this even possible?
Exactly. I feel like people are not educated enough. And like even like the industry and just like in general society here in South Africa, I feel like there's no access to that education, and these topics are not being discussed, and like, you know, we're not given the platform to showcase or get representation, you know, as a community, so that people can actually understand. And I don't blame them to a certain extent. I don't blame them because like, you don't know what's like this whole, you know, queer thing, and you being exposed to it. Obviously, homophobia is created from like fear and stuff like that, you know, because you do not know anything about it. So you fear that, oh, this thing, it's evil, it's this. All you know is like negative, you know, like,
connotations,
around it. So obviously you're gonna just try as much as possible to kind of like make it make sense to your own perspective, So I feel like that's what.
And do you think it's about learning or it's just ignorance? Because
there's also
if it's the older generation is a bit like my grandmother is 72 and she gets it. She's like, as long as you happy, and I in that, you know, and
it's just like so many
now
layers.
Look at it, our circle.
It's like so many layers. Like it's very divided. It's like really, really, it's deep.
I think it's really, and for me, I feel like it's not about learning. I think it's about ignorance. It's just being ignorant and living in your own little bubble, wanting life to go according to the way you understand it, the way you were taught, and that's it, you know? If you had the power to change the narrative in society, what would be the first thing you'd do just to change the narrative around the queer community? What would be the first thing you do?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. Okay. What would be the first thing I'll do if I had the power to change the narrative?
To change the narrative. Okay.
We are not, like, I want to change the narrative that we always just trying to I don't know, wait, I have to think about this. I'll change the narrative that we are somehow, like, I just hate the thing of, like, it's contagious, or like the negative narrative that, I don't know, just like, you know how aliens are like perceived? It's kind of like the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, I just hate that thing of, like, the narrative.
Just being an outcast.
Like the narrative that we're not, like, as if we're not human, or just like we're not normal, you know? It's just like, we're normal. We're just like everyone else. It's just sexuality. That's it. Like, we are not any different, like, heterosexual, like, compared to heterosexual people. We just different in...
We bleed the same. We breathe the same. We bleed the same. We see the same. Walk the same.
I just hate the narrative and, like, this, like, the perspective that people have that we are just like a whole species, or like a whole different race, or like, not race, but like, you know, a whole different type of thing. We are human.
Type of person, like, it's like black, white, Indian, Chinese, gays, lesbians.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you were to go back in time to tell your younger self advice, what would it be? So if you were to go back, like, you've lived, I don't know how old you are, you've lived X amount of years
old.
Oh, still so young, so fresh.
I'm so scared of turning 21. Like, I'm turning 21 this year. I'm so scared.
No, don't be scared. I feel like the journey of growing brings wisdom. I'm 32, and I feel like the 30s have been such a very graceful
I'm excited.
moment in my life.
My 30s,
you know, so if I were you, I would say rush to 30. That's when you get
really
peace,
excited for that.
And you do not care about what people say.
I honestly feel I'm going to be like that, like, dead us.
So if you had to go back when you're in primary and you had to give your younger self advice, especially being a content creator, being a model, and identifying, what would you tell your younger self?
Literally.
Going back into time.
Literally. This is the only thing that came to my mind. Like, stop trying to please other people. Like, stop caring about what people think. Stop caring about what people think. Because I feel like I wasted a lot of time being so concerned, like, about what people are going to think about me, what people, like, what they view in me, like, how they view me, and, like, how am I going to be seen if I act like this, if I do, like, do this or whatever? In what type of light will I be seen, you know? And I wasted so much time. Like, I honestly, like, even when I was younger, I wouldn't go out because I was scared that, oh, people are going to judge me. Like, I had to a point where I had, like, social, what's this? Anxiety. Like, I couldn't go anywhere. Even, like, when I was, like, a teen, like, recently, I couldn't go anywhere. I used to stay at home because I was so, like, anxious about what people thought about me. And it puts you in such a dark bubble and hole that, like, like, puts your potential, it waters down your potential and your happiness and your joy. So I'll definitely tell myself, my younger self, that stop stressing about what people think about you. Stop caring about what people think about you. Like, honestly, if I didn't care, I feel like I would have been so far in life. But now I'm definitely I'm entering that whole dynamic of, like, not giving a fuck. I'm sorry, can I curse? Can I curse?
Timing. I think definitely you can curse.
So, yeah, I'm just like, I don't give a fuck anymore. I just want to be me. Like, you matter how you feel and how you view your own self. That's all that matters. As long as you're happy about who you are, that's it.
Yeah. So, because my platform or my podcast is about always making sure people become the better versions of themselves, and to learn and to be comfortable in their skin and to find solace in my platform, what would your advice be to someone who's trying to figure out who they are? Someone who's 15, 16 or 20 or even 30. What would be your advice to them to say, okay, this is who you are, and it's okay. So what would be your advice to somebody who's identifying, somebody who wants to go on the journey of being a model and identify? What would be your advice?
I'd honestly say spend time with yourself. Like, spend time with yourself. Like, not just, like, spend time with yourself, but, like, you know, like, emotionally, like, get to know yourself. Like, really take it, like, make it your mission to understand yourself, to fall in love with who you are. And just, it really starts with that relationship, the relationship you have with yourself. And then once you figured that out, I swear everything else will come out, like, will come easily. Because then once you build yourself up to become who you are, like, who you want to be, also, like, when I was, like, still figuring everything out about who I was, I also used to, like, do, like, vision boards and just, like, write down who I wanted to be. And, like, you know, I'm very much into spirituality, so I just always loved painting a picture of, like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with, and I accept it, and I'm gonna understand what it is, and I want to be this. I want to be this kind of person. And, you know, just, like, set out those intentions and prepare yourself to become more aligned with your authentic self, and just follow your heart. Like, follow your heart. Everything will just come as it is, if you follow your heart, you know. And just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Like, nothing's gonna happen. Just just give it time. Like, give it time and just work on yourself. Work on yourself. Because honestly, like, if you try to, like, downplay it, and like hide it, it's always gonna come and haunt you. So it's just like deal with it now, and yeah, okay, I'm good, so that you know that you're good for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Life is always worth living. So thank you for actually joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
You've actually answered all my questions.
I hope I made sense.
But I believe you did. So before you go, where can my listeners find you, find your page, find your work? I mean, my listeners are everywhere in the world. I'm based in Australia. I've got listeners in America.
That's amazing.
I have listeners in Europe, and I have listeners in South Africa. So where can people find you? If somebody is looking for Cherry Stone, where can they find your work? Okay. Where can they find you?
Yeah. Right now I'm devoted to my Instagram. That's the platform that I'm always consistently on. So you can follow me on Instagram at Cherry Stones with 2 underscores at the end. So it's at Cherry Stones with 2 underscores at the end. So yeah, that's my handle. And hopefully I'll make a comeback for YouTube, but you can also search me on YouTube. Yes. I have 1 video. So yeah.
And it's a lovely video. It is a very lovely video. You've got so much. I think I need to do this. I haven't done it with all the other people or all the other guests that I've
special.
had. But my spirit is truly aligned with yours, and I wanted to give you this time to say to you, keep on doing what you have to do. You've got so much to show the world. Do not give up on yourself. Do not wait for other people to open the doors for you. Open them for yourself. You've got a story to you've got a story to tell. You are a beautiful creature. You're a beautiful human being, and let nobody tell you otherwise. I personally feel like you've got so many places to go. So when you get there, I want you to remember that there's a girl called Nita somewhere there who interviewed me a long time ago.
I will never forget.
Who said this? I will prophesy this, because you are going to walk those runways. You are going to be that model. Keep on pushing.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
You've got so much to do.
Thank you so much.
Do not limit yourself.
I will never. That's one thing I'll never do. Thank you so much. You are such an inspiration.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was so wholesome.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll catch you again on Instagram. Thank you for joining
having me. Bye, y'all. Bye.
Thank you to Nina Ayanda, Bongani Njalo, Cherry Stones, Nomfundo the Poet for sharing your stories and joining me. What I gathered from this is that we all have stories to share, some painful, some joyful, but in it all, we have shared experiences. This is to all my listeners who might be going through a journey of identifying and finding themselves. Know that every journey is lessons learned, and you're not alone. Lean near to those that care and those that love you. If I wait for someone else to validate my existence, it will mean that I'm shortchanging myself. Zanele Muhuli. Follow me on Instagram, subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcast. I am Nita Terry T, your host of Unspoken Truth. Until the next episode, remember, everything in life comes with divine order, divine timing, and divine presence. Dear you, you're going to be just fine. I thank you.
The Unspoken Truth is the catalyst for important and thought-provoking conversations that need to be had. The network tackles social ills, spiritual healing, soul-searching, and mental health awareness. To subscribe, click on the show link to follow our podcast and be part of the Unspoken Truth family. Find us on all social media platforms.